Hi, everybody, and welcome to Tremco Live, where we're socially distant but technically connected. I'm Marcy Tyler, one of the hosts for Tremco Live, and I'm joined again by Paul.
I'm Paul Hudenboom. I'm the president of Tremco Construction Products Group. Marcy, a fantastic collection of brands, companies, product systems, and of course, most of all, people, our people, and as important, all our outside partners and collaborators and listeners.
Yes, absolutely. And of course, this is part 3 of our panelization series. So once again, we're joined by Mike Barker and Rick Bunting. Hi, guys. Welcome.
Hi, how are you?
Good.
Thanks for having us.
Yeah, I'm happy to have you guys again. So if you missed part 1 and part 2, please check those out on our YouTube channel. But once again, we're pretty excited to be able to bring you this whole series on panelization. I think before we got started today, Paul was talking about his favorites, and if you join us regularly, Paul's got lots of favorites, and this is certainly one of them. So.
Yeah, this is I would say top 3.
Ooh, okay.
What do you think?
Yeah.
I was saying we could probably do panelization every week. Have something really, really interesting to contribute.
Absolutely, and I think that goes back to that the design flexibility, that constructability that we've already demonstrated in weeks 1 and 2, and we'll certainly continue on in week 3. So that's great. We've got, as always, a few slides to help guide us through our conversation today. So we'll have those up here for everybody to see as we tell that story. So once again, thanks guys for joining us. I think we wanted to do just a quick recap on driving in panelization.
All right, as we've said in our past couple of presentations, we're not new to panelization. We've got thousands of projects completed worldwide. Actually, first project, which we talked about, was done over nearly 50 years ago. And we've got buildings that are up and over 50 stories now. Along with our warranty system and our partner fabricator network, we can really help you get your buildings done properly using panelization and getting them done on time. So we can go through and begin to take a quick overview. There's the first job that I referenced there is Circus Hotel, done in 72, 73. Just a great job and still standing in Vegas, and a good example of innovation and utilization of panelization, and people realized it back then, and now we're just getting better and better at it. So,
interesting point to mention. I'm as old as Circus. I think Circus has a little more stories to tell than I do, though.
This was a job that I actually worked on back in '84, and I think the interesting thing about it is that at the time it was for the factory of the future, which GE was building an automated turbine engine plant, and so they wanted to use all what they felt were modern construction processes, and they chose to use drive-it on prefabricated panels. And here we are putting some finish onto the sign, which we'll show later on, and just a great project. We didn't have all that fancy equipment. We cut that sign out using an overhead projector and a knife, so I think it came out great. Unfortunately, the buildings were torn down a few years back, but still gives you an example of what you can do and the versatility of using drive-it and EPS, be able to cut shapes.
Well, and that's what's amazing, right? The versatility even back then, and imagine with the innovations of today, there's even more flexibility.
Right. So
we had to include Al again, Al Zabo.
He called me after the presentation and said, you guys putting that in there, that you should talk to me about that. Which I thought was kind of funny. Anyway, so as I said, we've been involved in the panel industry obviously for a very long time, and here are a few iterations and changes into our literature and collateral that we provide to our customers over the years, starting out with Tech 21 with Drive-It, and then we recently, as you'll see in the next one, we converted over to Tremco CPG, and the new brochure is out now, and all the new literature is out. We've changed the Tech 21 name over to Modulite, and the Modulite is the name of our panel program. And under our panel program, we have several different panel types. We'll be introducing new panels as we go along, and we can start to just do a quick overview of those panel types. The first is Federlite, a foam panel. Doesn't use any external framing or sheathing, but this is a great product, lightweight for renovation. This is the adhered version. We have the next one is Federlite M, which is a mechanically attached system. Basically the same thing, huge advantage in its weight, being 2.5 pounds a square foot, great renovation project, or also for a new construction use over shear walls and things like that, where you have winter conditions and you need to get something done in the winter application without having to worry about cold temperatures. We also have another panel called the Metalite panel, which is primarily used as a screen wall, can be used as a skin for a pre-engineered metal type building, can also be used for a renovation panel over a substrate that's reasonably sound. We can attach a mechanical angle or attachment system to it, so it provides a backer to the panel. Again, lightweight, only 4.5 pounds, which is kind of the key theme to all of our panels, is the weight. When you start comparing a full external panel or cladding system, and we'll show you with the frame system on our Outsolite panel. You can go to the next one, there we go. So Outsolite has its own frame. This is typically done as a flyby or curtain wall type design. These panels weigh somewhere in the 8 to 10 pound range, less than 10 pounds. And they provide have full structural capabilities, so they can carry the load of a window. There are instances where some people do load bearing panels this way. So this is our Outsolite. We have another option with our Secure Exo Air 430 sheathing that we call the Outsolite Secure Exo Air 430. How's that? So, and this is an upgrade over our, not necessarily an upgrade in performance over our backstop, which is typically used on Outsolite, but you skip a step by having to install the air and moisture barrier through a joint venture with USG. We have produced a sheathing that already has that air and moisture barrier on it. So you put the sheathing down, treat the fasteners and joints, and you can move right along and start to install your EPS to the panel. So just another process that we try to utilize to speed up production and get your buildings done faster. So
I love how you went through all of those again today, obviously with the 2 new additions, but once again, it lends us to that whole constructability.
Yeah,
the options.
It's Rick, can you touch on that a little bit? I'm always impressed that when we get involved early in a project, we can really help speed up the construction cycle, improve on cost, and improve on performance. I'm always amazed by the stories I hear about that.
Yep, sure. You know, oftentimes we'll get called in on a project after it's already designed, and we'll convert from field applied to panelization, which works. But if we can get in early, we can show you some different ways to make things go faster. Obviously, a standard project, the framing will normally sit on the slab. With this type of panel, we push the framing out to the outside face of the slab. When you do that, we can pick up 6 inches of interior space on the perimeter of the building at each floor, which gives you more rentable space. We can develop and design an attachment method that is more efficient and easier to do by having embeds placed in the concrete, or by just facilitating different types of attachment for the building, which just makes the construction go faster. And going back to that rentable space, if you don't have the lot line space and you have to shrink the building because you're going proud of the slab, you can push the concrete down so you can save on that the amount of money that you would spend on the concrete. That coupled with the lightweight, if you were thinking about potentially using precast concrete, which might weigh 40 to 60 or 70 pounds a square foot, we can potentially reduce the structural building, the structure itself, and save you a lot of money in concrete and steel. So I think it's really a great point and very important for us to always look at that opportunity. And as an architect or a designer, if you can get one of our sales guys in there, we can go through all of these points and show you how we can really save you some money and get your buildings done quickly.
Yeah, the
I'm
sooner
sure
the
that's,
better on that.
yeah. I was just going to say that, Mike. I'm sure that's that role that you guys play, to sit down and talk to that customer about what their needs are.
Yes, and we
The
like
sooner we can get in, the better it is.
yeah. And Mike's guys are all out there pushing and talking with architects and really trying to drive home the key points, and we're really starting to see a lot of projects starting to come in our door. I think this week I've had well over 250,000 square feet of jobs to look at, new projects that were not panelization. So that's just a true testament to what we're doing out in the industry. We can go along there. The other big thing about our system that we really push is our options aesthetically. So where many companies are out there and they're mixing different products to come up with a finished panel, with our products or with all of our finish options, we can get pretty much meet any aesthetic that you want, from stone finish looks here to plaster series or masonry series. We have custom brick, which is a templated brick. We have new brick, which is a lightweight insulated brick veneer that uses a traditional type N or type S mortar. So we have a great masonry option, and these can be configured in different sizes, whether they're jumbo brick or utility brick or Normans or standards. And then we can also do some block sizing. So just a very cool option. We have our reflected, which replicates a metal panel look that can go on smooth or that can go on textured. We have a rusted effect called Ferros that matches like a Core 10. And then we have a wood grain series that we can show you how to do the wood grain. We have a complete application instructions for that. We also have planks that can be done in wood grain as well. So we pretty much cover the whole gamut with finish, so that the key with that is that you're dealing with one contractor to complete the whole outside of your building, as opposed to having one trade do one finish and another trade do another. There's one warranty, there's one source, and as Mike says, one hand to shake. So we think we've got it all covered there.
Yep.
Marcy, I'm always amazed that your nose can be 6 inches off one of these panels, and unless you don't know it's not, not an alternate material, right? And sometimes you dig your fingernail in just to say. Yeah. The one that's scary about all of these is the wood one. The first time I saw the wood one, I'd have bet a lot of money that was wood.
Yeah, that's so true. I was talking to a design professional last week in Kentucky, and I said, "Have you chosen what your facade's going to be?" And he said, "No, I haven't." I go, "Well, it doesn't matter because we can provide any of them." Yeah. So it was a pretty interesting conversation with this person.
Yeah, I think the other thing too is that in any one of these, the durability is actually higher than what we would call an original material. Yeah. And that's, I think, always a surprise to people too, is they get extraordinary durability in any one of these finishes.
Exactly.
Yeah. Well, and I think go out and stain that wood also makes life a lot easier too, maintenance standpoint. So with all of our systems, we offer installation details, we offer specifications and fabrication installation instructions, and that's for each panel type. We have a complete suite of collateral for you to use, and of course Mike's sales team out there pushing and providing you all of the assistance you need. So.
I think that's a key point too, Marty, is that we're always out on the job site early. That people put bids together based upon production rates, things of that nature. So it's just key to have us out there right at the beginning, so you can meet or exceed your production rate, not have any quality issues. And that's something I think we do better than anybody.
Exactly, and I love the next couple of slides here talking about the installation portion of it through details. So once again, the details, the information is available, but it's customizable based on what you need for your building.
Right, so these are the two panel types. The general configuration would be a steel stud, sheathing, EPS, our base coat and mesh. And we have a number, as Paul mentioned, from a durability standpoint, we have a number of different types of mesh, which allow for increased in strength and durability against impact. So, and that's another thing, that having someone come in early, you can figure for that. A lot of times they'll They'll not include that because it was an oversight. So when our guys are in there, we'll point out the areas where we feel we want to do that. And also jointing, panel layouts if you need help on that. So these are the two types, the Outslight and the SE430. And then we'll kind of go through some attachment options and layouts. So layout is really a function of what the building gives you, and also the sizing. You can go to the next one. The sizing will be dictated most often by what your shipping restraints are. You don't want to get into wide loads, but we can help with that as well. You can do a scheme that is a horizontal layout with windows punched in and installed into the panels, or you can just provide the rough openings. You can do a vertical layout, which I think we show on the next slide. And it can be a wider panel, and you can span 2 or 3 stories with the panel height itself. And like I say, it's just a function of the shipping that you can put the panel on the trailer. You don't want to have escorts, so you want to try and keep it to a manageable size. But just to show you that you're not locked into one way, and you can do the windows in there. We show all of that and all of our details that we have. And of course, a spandrel panel can be done. Obviously, the windows would get installed afterwards. And if you were to install the frames in the panels, you could do that and then glaze them in the field. So it just speeds things up. You've got a lot more control when you're doing it in a shop versus doing it in the field. Next. Okay, in our detail system, we show attachment methods for steel and concrete. And for all of those conditions, a vertical or a horizontal scheme or a spandrel scheme or an industrial type of a panel. So we give you all of that detailing, which is something that a lot of people, since hasn't been worked with, a lot of people, that's probably the most common asked question. How do we put the panels up? So we give a very, very complete sampling of attachment methods. And I think it answers a lot of questions. And that doesn't mean that we have them all covered in there, but we give you a good range of ways to do it. So we can go through and we'll show a couple of those options.
Once again, the customization is still there, right? So if you don't see what you need, that's where you're going to want to reach out to Rick or Mike, because we certainly can make that customizable.
So starting at the slab at the bottom, we typically would recommend that you use this type of a connection, a moment connection, and just attaches to the slab, and then the panel loads can load off of different attachments off the face of the slab, different methods. And this is where it's important in the early design stage that we can show you if you need to provide recesses for embeds, or if you need to install an embed in the face of the slab or the top of the slab so that our clips can get attached to them. And then we always, as you can see at the floor line, we'll show you, where you need fire and smoke seal, although that's not actually part of the panel. It's an integral part of having the panel perform the way we want it to. You can have rigid connections, or you can have slip connections to handle building deflection. And those connections can be done where they slip at the slab or they slip on the stud. So we pretty much got everything covered. But like I said, some panel fabricators may opt to do it a different way. It doesn't mean that it's wrong because it doesn't match our details. It just means that there are a lot of options out there. So the next one, Marcy, panel to panel connection. We generally would recommend using a Nelson stud so that the panels can stay in plane and move with it, slide with each other as the building moves. So your typical caulk joint, although being a sealants manufacturer, we obviously want to have our sealants used in there. When you utilize Tremco sealants, we offer an additional 2 years to your warranty, which I think is a great plus. And generally what we do now, the industry has kind of moved to a belt and suspender type of a sealant, where we have a sacrificial joint on the front. And these joints will last for a number of years, but the secondary joint is not exposed to UV, so it will last pretty much as long as the panel or the building will be there. So just a nice benefit from a security standpoint, knowing that you've got your building sealed properly. So we can move along. We'll get a little bit to the fabrication. Normally, like gauge steel studs, some instances you'll use tube steel, depending upon the panel design and the needs for the building. The frames are normally welded, but some people mechanically fasten them with screws or rivets. And the frames are done in a jig, and then after the frame comes out of the jig, we install the sheathing, which we will show next. Okay, and the sheathing is mechanically applied to the framing. We put an air and moisture barrier on. We treat the fasteners and the edges and the joints in preparation for the installation of our EPS.
Obviously, the orange one is the Secure FX 430. And then if you're going to install it, you've got your backstop.
Right. So if you use a typical fiber mat sheathing, then we install a fluid applied air and moisture barrier. And we have several types of air and moisture barrier. All of the Tremco products will integrate with the Drive It products, which makes it nice depending upon what you're used to doing. If you're going to use a different type of a material on there, you can use peel and sticks as well. We have fluid applied membranes for flashing around fenestrations for windows. So that's what the darker color there is. That's our Aqua Flash product, which is a liquid flashing material that uses a special mesh. So quite a nice application, and also a very, very watertight application. Okay, the EPS is applied normally with a notch trowel. The adhesive can be applied to the EPS or directly to the sheathing, placed onto the EPS. We still use the 2x4 sheets of foam in this application just to allow the system to move and function the way it's designed to. The pieces of foam are placed on the panel, laid out, and when you work in a shop, normally you'll see the panels laying down, which allows you to use tradesmen that may not be as skilled as somebody that has to be up on a scaffold working in a horizontal position. Although there are shops that do it vertically, the norm is the panels are laid down on benches or rollers and go through the cycle in the shop. Next. After the EPS is put down and is dried, you'll mark everything out, strike your lines, detail it, rasp it, so you have a good smooth surface to receive the base coat and mesh, which is the next application. And any detailing that has to be done, routed joints get installed into the face of the EPS, or shapes get placed on before the base coat and mesh. So if you want to add ornamentation to it, you can do it well, and that's at this point that you do it. So we'll go to the next one, Mars. Base coated mesh application, same thing. When it's installed in a horizontal fashion, it's a lot easier to pour the material onto the face of the panel and trowel it out rather than doing it with a hawk and trowel. Reduces your waste, allows you to get a lot more footage up, because I think you can move faster in this application, or this method of application as well. And the blue there is our reinforcing fabric. And if you were to put the Panzer mesh on, it would be a double layer of mesh. So you can basically hit that one with a hammer. We always wrap the base coat and mesh onto the framing about 2.5 inches, normally the center line of the stud. That wraps and encapsulates all the EPS, and it gives you a good solid surface to caulk to as well. Go along. All right, all the edges that are going to receive sealant get hit with our color prime. The sealant bonds better to a smoother surface than to a textured surface. Again, working on maintaining and giving you a good watertight application. Next. And here you see some of the finish options. The one on the lower right is our custom brick, which is the templated brick. Photograph on the left shows Terra Neo finish. And you can see when you combine finishes what you can get. Normally, you might have a mason putting in the brick, and he would be putting in limestone stones, which replicate the trim piece on top of the brick. And then you might have a stucco contractor come in and do the flat work there. But when you do it with our products, everything ties together. There's no big bust between one finish to another and worrying about coordination of trades. It just makes things go smoother.
I was on a project a couple months ago, and the issue was with the brick down below. When they had to put up different, brick ties and things like that, they punctured and broke up the board behind it. So
and then it always
said,
becomes an argument.
We could have done, because it was eaves above and then stone below. So I was like, oh, we could have done this a little
I
different.
hear that a lot, Marcy,
Yeah.
that buildings are getting more and more transitions.
Yeah.
And as Rick just covered, we can make that really, really easy.
If we could do it all in
That's
one
great.
source and stop the finger pointing too, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, exactly. So, and as I mentioned, you can put the windows in the panels. You don't necessarily in this panel here. You have the windows installed with a tube steel frame. This was set up as a truss design, so there was a lot more structural need. But the panel windows can be installed. The caulking can be done in that controlled environment. Just again, increasing the quality. Not that you can't get that in a field application, but in a shop condition, it's a lot easier to monitor and maintain that quality of installation. Okay, loading the panels up generally are placed on tractor trailers, on flatbeds, and most you can either lay them down or stand them up, and that just depends on the panel sizing. And you can just see that there are a number of different ways to do it. Okay. And typically you want to be able to produce as many of the panels as you can, or a good amount of the panels percentage wise on the job. So you may load them up on your trailers, place them out in your lay down area. Most companies will shrink wrap them or protect them from the elements going over the road. You just want to make sure that you follow some certain guidelines, which we point out in our specs, to ensure that we don't get any issues with sun. Want to make sure the panels are good and dry before they get wrapped, because you're encapsulating the plastic in there. Some companies build racks, as you can see, and they'll put those panels in a rack and just load it onto a trailer. And here are just some panels going over the road and getting ready to be installed. Okay. And the installation process, normally with this panel being about 10 pounds a foot, we use a crane. The cranes pick the panels up and they get placed on the outside of the building. Very, very similar to precast and the way they've been doing it for years, except that we have the advantage of having a very lightweight panel. Next, just some more installation panel configuration. You can see these are large panels, 2-3 stories tall, probably 8-10 feet wide. So you can cover a lot of area. So if you have a panel that's 10 by 30 or 10 by 35, that's 350 square feet. If you're installing somewhere between 10 and 15 panels in a day, you can see that you can get that building dried in and done quickly, which helps speed up the whole construction process, gets the interior trades working. When you do a real high rise, a real tall building, we might wait till they're at the 10th or 15th floor, and then we'll start from the bottom, so we can be drying in the building as they're still topping out the concrete or the frame above. We normally want to keep a certain level below. Oftentimes in metropolitan areas, we'll use the same tower crane. They'll have installation crews that will come in at night when the crane is idle, so we save money on that side of it, and the job is always moving forward.
That middle picture is impressive. 3 stories. That's a lot, just as you mentioned. Lots of square footage.
Yeah, it certainly is. So, and the windows in there, so you get a feel for it, and you don't have to have an elaborate panel shop either. This job here, they set the plant up in the parking lot. In Las Vegas, you'll notice that oftentimes this is the way it's done. So they set jigs up in the parking lot. They manufacture the panels right there. So that's your jig. Your frame's gonna get built in that, and we'll go through and kind of quickly show the process outside. Framing, sheathing, EPS goes on. You just build little horses. There's no magic to it, but there's a lot of learning curve to it. So you can see the building has progressed as these photographs have taken, showing panels being installed. So, and in Vegas, this was in Vegas, and it gets real hot. So they were working mostly at night. They set lights up and did it at night. And here's the exact opposite, where it's quite cold. And interesting thing about this picture is that's actually Dryvit's office building. We did that in panels in 1984. We don't get snow like that everywhere, but this is one of the main reasons why panelization has always been in vogue in the Northeast and in the colder climates. But now across the country, people recognize that it's not just cold weather, that is a benefit. It's speed, which and lack of labor with everything going on in the world today has really helped push the panel program along.
Do we know any of the people in the pictures?
Gentleman in the blue jacket is a fella named Alan Musumesi. He was one of our original field service techs back in the 70s. Dear friend of mine, still involved in the industry. I just did a small Federalite job with him in Rhode Island for the Narragansett Bay Commission. So Alan's been around a long time. He was a drive-it distributor for a number of years. I won't say his age, but he should be sitting at home drinking coffee or bourbon, whatever he prefers, and he's still out there working.
Bourbon with the coffee.
I think actually he's more of a martini guy, but yeah. And this was the same company that did that GE Factory of the Future project, and there it is again. So so that's the gentleman on the right is a fellow named Russell Pacetta, who was Drive-It's first vice president of technical services back in the 70s. That's me there when I had dark hair and a little bit slimmer in the middle, but this is that same Factory of the Future job in Lynn that we talked about earlier. Okay, and that's the finished panel for that job moving through the plant. And the sign, all the letters were cut out, and there's the sign after and the panels after it was installed. This was just a great job and a great example of how everything should come together and how you can integrate all the benefits. And this was 50 years ago, so we're 45 years ago. So very, very, very good. And here a little bit more modern approach. Obviously the colors and everything, great project. This was done by Novingers. Just a really perfect panel job, layout wise. It's bold, it's bright. They closed it in quickly. Just a great looking job in Philadelphia that was done a few years back. Okay. When Minnesota was awarded the Super Bowl, they were short on hotel space. So at Mystic Lake Casino, they wanted to build a hotel real fast, and which is a suburb. Prior Lake is right outside of Minneapolis, and so this was a job that one of our contractors, they wanted to prefabricate it to get it done quickly, and just a great example of how fast you can actually put these panels up. In this situation, we had only horizontal joints and then a vertical window scheme, so job went very quickly. Great looking project, got it done faster than they built a hotel there. I think the first hotel there took them twice as long to build as this one did, and this one's larger. So a good example of how you should panelize. And it was done in the Minnesota winter. Talk about large panels. This was a job that was done, actually this was quite a while ago. This was done probably in 1985, 86. That panel that they're installing and you see on the trailer coming down the road was 2 stories, actually 2.5 stories tall. It was a outside corner panel, about 35 feet tall, 32 feet tall, and it had the punch outs for the windows. So wide load. So we had certainly more in shipping, getting that panel to the building, but they wanted to have that look and have that panel done in one piece. So there were 4 of those made, and just a big, big panel. I remember seeing that thing go down the road and wondering we were going to get it there okay.
Yeah. Well, and I love this picture, one, because it's showing how huge, you know, the efficiency of it, but also because it was done so long ago. I think that's my family wagon there in the parking lot.
Yeah, pretty much. Yeah. Okay.
Might be in the back seat waving. So, but I love that, the flexibility of, you know, tell us what you want to build and we'll make it happen.
So we have, this was a project done in Missouri, or a few years ago. It was a hospital facility. They added another floor or 2 to the top of an existing building. They had existing masonry there. If you look at that picture on the left, you can see a sampling of the brick. That's actually the real brick from the building. And above it was this is a custom brick job. So they did some washes on the brick and mixed it up, and the match on the custom brick is phenomenal. So we have a mix of custom brick along with the stucco sandblast finish or sand pebble finish, I'm sorry, on there, and just lightweight, enables you to put extra stories onto a building. Hospitals are always expanding the most economical and obviously expedient way they can. So panelization is used quite often in hospitalization as well.
Well, and I love it because we've shown a lot of new construction, right? But we see a lot of this in restoration too, or even in something like this in terms of an addition, right? So adding to your existing facade or adding to your existing building are great options as well.
So, okay, we can go right along. Hotel, Vegas, big, huge building done by KHS&S. Just a great example of panelization. And you look at the layout and the scheme of that building, we've got massive cornices on there. So you don't have to have plain vanilla. You can dress it up any way you want. It's just a question of your budget, and we'll figure out a way to spend that money if you give it to us. So it's there. This is a great looking job. So we have quite a few of the high rises in Vegas are done. And like I said, most of the casinos across the country utilize panelization. This is the newest wind project up in Everett, Mass. Eastern Exterior Walls out of Pennsylvania did the panels on this. Just a great project, big project. I think they were just shy of 300,000 square feet of dry-vit panels on this job. So great example of speed and application. So, and to close it out, we don't get limited by access on this project is in Toronto, done by one of our great fabricators, Lido. This job was done, and when they pulled the crane down and they took the tower crane off, they still had a couple of areas where the hoist and where the tie-ins were that needed to get panels up there, so they flew them up there with a helicopter. So where there's a will, there's a way, and you can see. So some of those things are things that, like we mentioned with the constructability review, we can kind of work around how to do that, or at least plan for it, so there are no surprises. You have the design flexibility, as we talk about. Our warranties are second to none in the industry, and our warranties are all encompassing, from the air and moisture barrier to the cladding itself to the sealants. It's one source. We can tie in roofing, we can tie in waterproofing foundations. So we can give you pretty much everything you need for the exterior of that building, and all the terminations along with it to other products. So we think we've got the whole range covered. We hope we do, and we'd love to have the opportunity to show you how to build your building the right way.
Absolutely. Lots that we can cover. There is not, bring us your building and we'll figure out what's going to make the most sense for you.
Yeah, I'm glad, Rick, you closed on the warranty topic. I think that I'm always surprised about the scope of which we can stand behind with this approach.
Yeah.
And how that really differentiates really what we do.
Yeah.
From others. So I'm glad that Rick mentioned that. Marcy, I appreciate I got another weekly fix on panelization, thanks to Rick and Mike and you. So thank you for that.
And I know as you are watching this, you may have specific questions based on your building type, whether it's new construction or restoration, but that's exactly what both Mike Barker and Rick Bunting are here for. I know several of you in the past sessions have actually had some questions about warranted solutions. And I think that's where that customization comes in. So that's where we're going to have you follow up directly with Mike Barker or someone on his team. So we can show you exactly, as Paul mentioned, what we can provide on that. So we got you covered. Right? No matter,
yes, we do, indeed. So
no matter what it is. So I'm just gonna close with this last slide here, just so people have some information about my name. Obviously, Marcy Tyler at tremcocpg.live. If you guys have any questions or need anything additional, that is there for you. So any final words, guys?
Mike?
Just appreciate the time. We look forward to working with you, and the earlier we can get in, the more we can help you with the one source. So appreciate the time.
Yeah, I think that's the key part. Get in as early as we can. We want to be there to work with you throughout the whole process. So.
Perfect. All right, very good. And I guess, yeah, as far as where I sit with that, all of the information that we showed here as far as collateral is all on our website. You can get it there. And of course, we also have a Find Your Fabricator page there. So you reach out and we'll put you in touch with the local salesman and get you in touch with the local fabricator as well.
Good. Well, thanks, guys. Thanks as always for joining us.
Thank you.
Thanks everybody else. Enjoy your Friday, enjoy your weekend, and we'll see you next time.
All right. Have a great Thanksgiving.
Thanks a lot.
Yes. Happy Thanksgiving.
Thank you, everybody. Be well.